Hello and welcome. My name is Jody Lynn Craven, founder of Abundance Consciousness, and this is my dear friend Heather Marie.
Hi, I'm Heather Marie, founder of Soulgate. Welcome to Channel Squared, where we have extraordinary channel conversations about everyday life topics. Every week, we choose a topic, connect with you, the divine, and our guides, and then channel here with you live.
Yeah, and today we're talking about how to stand in your sovereign divinity. So things seem to be changing at a rapid pace within this timeline. And as a collective, there's many who are worried about the future, the earth, democracy, freedom, food, you name it. Things are top of mind right now. It's time to stand in your sovereign divinity and stand for the world that you want to create. But what does that look like? What does that mean? And how do we stay in a higher vibration instead of a lower one while doing it? Whew. This is a big topic.
It really is. It really is. And, I think that it's definitely a topic that we received a major nudge to have today. So, I know that we had something else slated for today, and this just really became a priority. So we put a pin in our planned content to bring this forward today.
Isn't it so interesting how we just get guided to the right thing? I mean, I think we should tell a little bit of the backstory on this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
by all
Okay.
means, enlighten us.
Last week we did the meat suit conversation, and there was so much there that we didn't really, scratch the surface on what we wanted to talk about or what we thought we were going to talk about. So we decided we were going to do a meat suit episode 2.0. And we had a conversation about that was going to be our next episode, and this episode that we're airing right now would have to wait. And then technology kind of took over. It was announced because everything is already in the queue, because we like to plan ahead. And then it was so interesting yesterday when I saw it. I was like, oh, gotta message Heather to see if we're doing Meat Suit 2.0 or if we're doing a different one. And then I got diverted to something else. And then I went to a different, like that was on Instagram. And then I went to, like, we have a Slack channel where we communicate everything business inside of there for C2 and or Channel Squared. And I typed out the entire message inside of there of, what, hey, aren't we doing Meat Suit 2.0? And I never sent it. And then later on in the afternoon, I was like, this feels right. And I just shared the post, just went with the feeling of faith of this is where we need to be. And it's interesting because I was doing some channeling this morning, and there was a lot of stuff coming through about what's coming up next. And I'm going to plug your event, Heather, because Heather has an event tomorrow, and the whole topic is called Next. Like, what is next for the future? So obviously this is the topic that we need to cover today. And, if you're not registered for Heather's event, you got to get that link and get yourself registered. I'm going to be there. It's going to be awesome. So,
Yes.
Yeah. Where do we want to start?
I do think that it's really interesting about the conversations that we're having about what's coming up next, because, the bombs that you dropped on me this morning about what you channeled about what's next it's so fascinating and so in line with the feeling that I've been feeling about, what is actually coming, what's actually on the horizon. And the thing is that from where we sit and what we see and what we're channeling, it sounds to me like today's topic is more important than ever to be able to stand in your, sovereign divinity, against what could be in the foreseeable future. So I think this is a perfectly timed topic. I'm glad that we're having it today. And Scott, I'm sure you were super excited today about Meat Suit 2.0, but we're going to have to put a pin in that for a couple of weeks, but we will definitely come back to it. This is a very pressing topic for today.
Yeah.
So where do we start? Scott's already asked a question.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Scott wants to know, how do you stand in your divine sovereignty while dealing with duality?
oh,
Ooh,
that's the
talk
whole
about
point
jumping
of
into the
this
fire.
conversation, right?
Mhm.
Because when we are like quote unquote, let's say standing in our sovereign power, we call it fight for your rights, fight for your liberties, stand in that sovereign power, and you see all of the stuff that is going on around you. And there's some pretty opposing forces that we're seeing, and there's also a lot of tempers flaring. That's what I'm seeing. And a question that was posed to me a week ago or 2 weeks ago was, the exact same thing that Scott asked. How do you come at it from a positive standpoint when we're fighting, when we're resisting, when there's a battle? And um, the first question that I do have for our guides, and I want to be clear about this. I think that there is people here on this earth right now, and their timeline or the reason why they are here is to actually fight. And that might be in a physical sense. And that might be in a like gathering people together to, I don't know, stand up. I don't know, but I think that I would like to ask that question. Are there specific people who are here to do just that, fight?
Yeah, absolutely. They're the warriors of this present, like incarnation, this present experience. And some of, what we are to see on the horizon is going to be reminiscent of stuff that we've seen in the past. And so, the whole phrase of, what goes around comes around, right? Or, things tend to repeat themselves. So what I get is that there are definitely beings that have come in, souls that have come in at this time that are warrior in like spirit, like their nature. This is, they were created specifically for these roles. They're disruptors. There are people that are souls that are brought in to reflect back, and sometimes that reflection is, comes in the way of a disruptor. Um, and and the other thing that they're saying is that that even though they may come in with a warrior type spirit, it doesn't mean that they are here to violently serve. So they're making a distinction there that, they're not maybe necessarily here to violently serve, but here to take a stand, whether it be intellectually, spiritually, even politically. They're saying there are different areas in which you can stand up for your belief system, for what you feel in your heart to be true and right, without having to take to a place of violence to get to be heard. That doesn't mean that there aren't um, warriors here that will take to violence, but they are typically more of your, the feeling that they're giving me is more of like a military type of like mindset or development. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I get when you were talking just there, I got defense. The word defense was coming up. It was about defending and honoring. And
Right.
as you were talking, the other things they were showing me different pockets of people, and one of them was brawn, like muscle, but from a place of peace within their heart and love within their heart. So, very interesting. Okay. So for maybe the rest of us that are not warriors, I don't think I'm a warrior. I think maybe we've never channeled that. I've been a warrior in past lives. Dangerous. I
I
imagine
think
myself in a cat suit.
it probably depends on how you view a warrior, like you may be thinking warrior, like, brawn and, tough guy, but, here you are, working on a very important project that, could potentially bring freedom to all people. And that is very warrior, if I do say so myself. Just
All
saying.
right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm a warrior. I'm a warrior. Would you say that you're a warrior?
No way.
No
I'm a
way.
gossip. No, I'm the gossip for the other side. No, I'm just kidding.
The word that I get for you, Heather, is ignition, the igniter. Which totally makes sense. You help people find their purpose and what they're really supposed to do here in this lifetime. So how would that not ignite their ascension? How would it not ignite that soul path or purpose that they're intended to be on it within this lifetime? So the ignition, you're the fire. Yes. But when we were doing prep for this show today, we were talking about how to approach things from a different standpoint. Because I think that regardless of whether you're a warrior, I think, your guides and my guides are trying to bring to the forefront the intentionality of what they're doing, where the intention is coming from, the vibration that we're putting out there as we do this. So let's talk more about that. What do we do?
What do we do?
What do we do?
I think the first step is to really hone in on where you stand. What is your truth? What do you believe? What do you know in your heart of hearts to be the truth for you? And I don't think that you can stand in any sort of sovereignty without knowing what you're standing for. Like, who are you? What are you made of? And what do you believe to be true about your experience, about why you're here, about the environment that you are currently residing in? I'm not talking about like your house and your car and all that stuff. I'm talking about the climate of your relationships, your experience to the outside world. How do things affect you? When you hear things on the news, do you take them for gospel, or do you question whether or not those things are true? It's like taking a pulse on who you are and what you actually stand for. I think that is step one, because without that, you don't know what you're standing for.
Or
you're
why.
Or why.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think there's a lot of people today who have glommed onto an idea but don't fully understand it. I don't even want to use the word stand up for it. But you would ask them some basic questions and they start floundering. And some people do that just under question because they don't feel confident or whatever. And that, okay, let's put that to the side. And if that, I've been that way at different points in my life when I had less confidence, when I was very insecure, I really wasn't sure of any of the decisions that I was making whatsoever. I didn't have confidence in myself. So it was hard for me to have a conversation like that. If somebody questioned me, I would question myself. I would question everything and flounder. Essentially, I wouldn't be able to tell you. But in those quiet moments, this is when you get to ask yourself the tough questions. And there is no right or wrong answer. It's what your heart is saying is true for you. What is truth for you? And sometimes there's no evidence to back that up. I know as channels, we've channeled some miraculous, crazy things And all we have is the faith, that sense that we get within our own heart of, yes, this is the truth. And then we watch it unfold, and we have the faith that it will unfold, that we're being led in the right direction, if that makes sense. But I agree, this is where it all starts, is with you. What is your truth? And on the why piece, I want to put a little asterisk here, because this is a really good opportunity for someone to find out what drives them. And you said, it depends on your definition of warrior. My definition of warrior before you said that is bloody battle, but I never asked myself, what is the definition of a warrior in my own mind? Until you said it right then. So it could be conditioned belief systems as to your reason why. And if that is, it still feels true to you with all of the conditioning, great. But if you start to ask yourself some questions about, why do I believe this? Because somebody said, or somebody told me, or I believe this, and therefore this has to equal this. You might be able to shake loose some beliefs that aren't serving you, or some reasons why you're holding so strongly in a position that doesn't necessarily make sense for you. And the next thing that I want to add to that too is, it's okay to change. You don't have to be stuck. You're not a tree, right? It's okay to change. You get to change your mind throughout this process. And it's not good or bad. It just simply is what you're choosing in these moments. So it's okay to change your mind.
Yeah. And I think that I'm so glad that you said that, because that sometimes people get so fixated on, well, I believe XYZ thing, and they're so hung up on their belief that they have to be right, and so it's more of a, I'm going to be right and you are going to be wrong. And the whole being right thing, it's just a facade anyway. Right to whom? Right to this person, or right to yourself? Like, are you so stuck on your own importance that you must be right? Like, let go of being right.
Well, yeah. What is it doing for you?
Exactly.
If I'm right, then I am not wrong.
Right.
Okay, well, what does being wrong mean to you? If you're wrong, some people have the belief system, I was there before, if I am wrong, it means I am bad. I'm a bad person. I'm unintelligent. I'm this, I'm that, and whatever. That's all conditioning. That's all belief systems that aren't serving you. So what do you want to be right about? What a fabulous question. And why?
Yeah. Why? Exactly. Like, why do you care to be right? Some of the information that I get when I'm checking in on the pulse of humanity and everything that's going on in this glorious popcorn eating time, some of it could be very disturbing, very disrupting. And, could I channel that to the world? Absolutely. I could just stand there on my soapbox all day long and tell everything that's coming up, that's going to be out there, and without any regard to how it might affect humanity. And if I did that, and then the predictions came true, which they will, right? It would make me right. And I'd be able to be like, oh, look at me, I'm right again, right? But the reality is there's a way to share your information that you may be right about in a way that, is not going to have everybody, completely in chaos, freaking out, right? If let's say it's something bad, right?
Yeah.
So, there's a lot that gets kind of, okay, I know this, I set this to the side. What can I do to, start sort of preparing people in a way without creating anarchy, globally, or how can I present this information in a way that it plants the seed so that they know what's coming without me having to be right? Because sometimes I, quite frankly, would rather be wrong. Some of the information that comes in, I just think, maybe I'm wrong on this. Maybe this will be wrong. Maybe something will change and this is all wrong. I'm just going to put a pin in this because we're hoping it's wrong, And so in that case, like, it's better to not focus so much on being right, because what does it serve anyway?
Mhm.
Mhm,
Yeah. Yeah. What do you want to be right about? What a brilliant question.
mhm.
I think something else that's really important is curiosity. Because I see a lot of fights that start, both in my own personal life and, out there on social media or different people. I try and stay out of the political conversations and sit back and be curious when someone has an opinion that is different than mine. And it's not always, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting in the corner, not saying anything. I'm sure there's some people that think I regularly wear a tinfoil hat, which I'm okay with, whatever. But I I want to check myself, check that pulse more regularly within me. Am I blinded by something because I'm trying to be right about something? Am I blinded by something because of fear? Am I having this conversation? Like, it used to just infuriate me when I started to see, corruption or conspiracy or whatever in these areas, and people didn't believe me. It used to infuriate me in those moments. But in that moment, that was my opportunity to learn, because I'm not here to force somebody to go along with me. I'm here to lead the people who want something different, who want a world of limitless possibility, who want abundance consciousness. Like, I'm here to lead in that direction. And that takes focusing on what I want rather than trying to convince people or change somebody's mind. And I'm not saying that I won't change anyone's mind or that I don't ever change people's minds, because I think with this approach, my approach of sitting back and being curious as to why, I'm learning information about their belief systems. I'm also learning information about my own belief systems. And then after the conversation is over, I can choose more, I guess, with more certainty that I'm going in the direction that I am consciously choosing, if that makes sense. I'm way more conscious about the interaction than unconscious.
Definitely,
Mhm.
definitely. And I want to ask a couple questions here because we are getting some questions in our chat. Scott had the question, is it true if you push or fight against duality, it pushes back? So, you know, if you push against the polarity or duality, it pushes back. So sometimes I think it really depends on what you're pushing with. Why are you pushing? And the thing about the duality is that it's here to provide contrast, and it's here to, and how severe one may experience that contrast, I think is relative to what they're here to do on a soul level.
Mhm.
So, Scott, the role that you play, in the earth at this time really puts a big target on your back because you are very powerful, and it's you know they'd love to maybe shut down your jam. So I think that the duality that you experience is and this kind of leans into a little bit of like manifestation, right? If you are here and you're manifesting a lot of polarity or duality, or I'm going to call it more of like low level vibrational type of stuff, like, why are you bringing this into your experience? Is it because you want to learn from it? Is it because you have some underlying belief system that you're not worthy, or that your, life is supposed to be hard? Or maybe it was conditional programming from being a child growing up in a house that was hard. So, I feel like, if you get come from a place of anger with duality, and you are pushing and fighting from a place of anger with duality, I feel like you're feeding it in a sense, and so you could feel a like pushback as, how you're relating to it. So, you know, um, try sending it love and see what happens. Oh, I see you, little hooligan, and I love you anyway. Thank you for providing the contrast,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. And when it comes to calling those things in, I think our response to it is important more now than ever. How we are responding to this duality that comes into our life. And I have a funny story. It's just like children and like bugs and snakes. I think that my guides brought me forward this event that happened. I was at a wedding, and anyway, I don't like snakes. I'm scared of them. I've never seen a garter snake up to this point, up to this story point. I know that they're little small snakes, whatever, right? They don't hurt you. I knew nothing about them. I've seen a snake like at the zoo or at like a resort or something like that, like those big ones. Anyway, don't like snakes at all. So we're at this wedding. It's beautiful. It's all outside. There's this beautiful tent and everything else. And everybody's, having the cocktail hour, and these kids find a garter snake, and it's like literally like this big, whatever. Right. And they've got it in their hands, and then they're chasing people. And I only know that it is a snake because people are screaming, snake at the top of their lungs. And in that moment, I was like, it's not going to hurt me. It's okay. So the boys, they came up to me and they had this snake and they went like this, right? And I was like, "Ooh, what you got?" I came from a place of curiosity. "Ooh, what you got?" And they're like, "Oh, we got a snake. Do you want to see it?" And I was not wigged out about it whatsoever. I was just like, "Okay, sure, show me." I was interested, whatever. They did not get a reaction, like a scared or frightened reaction out of me. So they literally left me alone. These boys who had said snake, and there was a girl that was in with the boys carrying this snake around. But this one lady who was at the wedding was terrified, absolutely terrified of this tiny little snake about this big. Like she literally could have killed it with her high heel. And she screamed the loudest. And guess what they did? They chased her with it over and over and over again. I was like, "Get behind me. Like I will protect you." So she hid behind me. And I said to her, "Your response is what is driving this. They are chasing you with it because they think it's hilarious that you are afraid. So stop being afraid." And she's like, "Ah!" It's still freaking out. So they continued to chase her until somebody took the snake away from them. But this is a great reflection of what happens in our lives. When we see that duality or that polarity, like something that we don't like, do you automatically go down that, rabbit hole, or, do you descend down into like anger and frustration? Are you so attached to it that you have this visceral response? And if the answer is yes, that's okay. That's the first step, is knowing where you're at. Okay. So what do you want instead? And can you start to play with that feeling so that it's a little bit better next time, and a little bit better and a little bit better? And what I found for myself is that the more that I lean into those feelings and ask questions, what am I afraid of? What is the worst case scenario here? Is it absolutely true that what my mind has ran away with is the only way that this could play out? No. The answer most of the time is no. There's billions of possibilities that exist instead. So you can start to step off of that attachment or that reaction that you're having And then it gets to a point with certain things. And now, not all things in my life are this way, but a lot of things more so now than any other time in my life, where when something quote unquote bad happens, I'm like, okay, interesting. And I have a good little laugh. Some things I still get really irritated with, and I'm working on those things, but I'm not attached to what my reaction was, whether it was good or bad. It just was. And it's an opportunity for me to learn and choose something that I want instead.
I think that that's amazing that you have that ability to be like, wow, cool. I used to be like that when I was a little younger. As I've gotten older, I'm like, oh my God, can you believe it? Holy shit. You know, oh, excuse me. I'm not supposed to say that probably. But anyway, like, you know, like now I tend to kind of like freak out first and then calm down and be like, okay, don't be ridiculous, Heather. Like, worse things than this has happened to you and you would come out just fine. So one of the things, Kat was asking a question about how do you deal with people that no matter what you say, they have a rebuttal like must be nice or deal with it. And she says, basically, you feel like you are their punching bag, and how do you stand up for yourself? And the thing that I want to ask you, Kat, is when you are having this experience, why does this inflame you?
That's
You
a great
know,
question.
like ask yourself when you're feeling like you are their punching bag and that you have to stand up for yourself, ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? What is it about the experience that you've had that has triggered you to the point of feeling like you're getting stepped on? And explore that. And I think that you might find that if you detach from the comment or the outcome or whatever it is that, you know, has created this like response of, you know, I'm getting beat up by this person, you'll be able to sort of separate yourself from it, and you'll be able to go, huh, wow, hopefully someday they'll come around. You know, I'm sorry
Yeah.
that they feel that way. You know, sometimes I find when people are, you know, like manifesting or, you know, creating in their life, people who are not as skilled at it or think that it's some magical woo that they can't do will tend to have this like approach of like, oh, that's so lucky for you. Isn't that just great? You know, and it's because they're triggered by your successfulness or by your ability or whatever it is, right? And just in those moments, you can kind of look at it and go, you know, you can have it too, you know, or just be like, oh, hey, I wish you all the manifesting in the world, you know, good luck, you know, or
Mm-hmm.
just not even respond. Because the thing is that the only time that you really turn into a punching bag for someone is when you engage it, which is the whole
Yes.
point of Jody Snake's story. Is the gal that was running around being chased by the kids with the 6-inch snake, she was engaging with that, you know, must be nice or deal with it scenario,
Yeah.
right? She was the one that was giving the energy back, giving the energy back. And so by you giving the energy back, it's going to persist. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if you get comments that are like, must be nice or deal with it, brush it off. Be like, well, hopefully they'll come around. And when they do, I will be here.
You know, it used to
That's
be,
my advice.
I love that, Heather. I've gotten that must be nice. Must be nice. They say it just like that. Must be nice. And it used to really bother me. And this is the reason it bothered me, because with that comment, I allowed them to take away everything that it took to get to that place that they say it must be nice. They invalidated with that comment, it invalidated all of the work, all of the things that I had done within myself, outside of myself to get to that point. But the key part of this was they didn't say any of those things. That was my interpretation. And I was choosing to take it that way of they're trying to put me down. And maybe they were trying to put me down, but I used to take it that way, that they were trying to take something from me. And for me, where I would stand up was I stopped letting them take it from me. Yeah, it is nice. It is nice. Yeah, I will deal with it. Like, okay, you stop giving that energy, what you said exactly. You stop giving that energy back. And it's not you're never going to be perfect at this, because there's going to be things that bother you, because that's why we're here, is to experience. This is the juice of life, how you react, how you respond. But taking radical responsibility for that response in a way that is kind to yourself, because you are not perfect. You're just learning. So, okay, that, that really bothered me. Okay, why does it bother me? Because they're saying that I'm lucky or that I got it easy. And that's not the case at all. I had to work really hard so that, they're putting me down, or they're negating all of these things that I did. Well, you can start asking some better questions. To who? Who did they negate that to? If they think that, oh, must be nice, you're so lucky or whatever, you didn't do anything to deserve that. That's their opinion. And my husband's favorite quote is, a lion never loses sleep over the opinion of sheep. And I like it. I like it. Totally. And another good one is, other people's opinions of you are none of your business. So you start to detach in that way that you're not so attached to the comment. And then you can also start like voting with your time. It's so interesting. We vote with our feet, with our wallet, with our time, with our energy, with our emotions. All of these things, we are voting for them to be in our life or holding on to them. So, can you limit the amount of time that you spend with those people?
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Can you limit those kinds of conversations so you don't actually have any of them at all? You're pleasant. Hello. Goodbye. Thank you very much. See you later. It's just, can you do some of those things? Can you start choosing to, with your time or with your energy in a way that feels better and serves you better than being a part of that conversation?
Yeah. And I definitely, can feel, Kat, where you're coming from with the criticism. The very first time I channeled on a very public setting, I channeled live in a group of 700 or 800 people. And immediately following that channeling, and this was kind of my like coming out of the closet moment, right? Like, I was kind of scared, really. I had, the history of multiple lifetimes of persecution for doing exactly what I'm here doing right now. And, even though I've done a lot of healing work through that, there's still that little piece in the back of your mind that's like, oh God, are they going to hate me? Are they going to love me? Like, what is this going to mean for me? And, so in that moment, going into it, I was, a little scared, I would say. How is this going to go down? More of like fear of the unknown than anything else. And when I got done, it wasn't 10 minutes later that the host, the person who hosted me, said to me, wow, you already have people who hate you. Fantastic. And I was like, what do you mean they hate me? And she's like, oh yeah, they're totally, you've already got a hater. They're calling you a fraud. I was crushed, Kat. Like, I literally got off the phone with her and cried for like an hour because I thought, oh my God, what am I doing? And as I started really sitting in that, and, thank God that I had the support of, family and friends and, my husband, sort of helping talk me through it. I realized that, I'm not for everybody. And that the gift that I bring will either, attract the people that it's meant for, and it'll repel the ones that it's not. And I'm okay with that. It could be that, maybe I'm only supposed to support, 100 people. in my life. And those 100 people are going to support the millions that are going to change the world. You see, so just because you get a little bit of criticism here and there along the way, it doesn't mean shit about anything. All it means is that you're attracting the ones that you're meant for and you're repelling the ones that you're not. And that is okay.
Yeah. And Scott said, as you raise your vibration, those with a lower vibe see it or feel it as a threat. And I've never channeled that specifically as a question, but I feel that. And I felt that during my, spiritual journey. And, I had some really, really close friends, and I was a very different person. And to this day, I still get people who are like, I miss the old Jody. And I had two very, very good friends that exited my life almost completely. And it was hard. Like, Heather and I have been friends for the last, 3 years now? 2.5? I don't know. It feels like lifetimes.
Closer to 3, but yeah.
Yeah, lifetimes.
Many lifetimes, but in this lifetime, 3.
Definitely other lifetimes for sure, but only in this lifetime, only a couple of years, and we're the best of friends. And I, up to like a month ago, I have had conversations with Heather, like grieving those relationships and that loss and trying to understand it. So I feel you, Kat, as you go through that. Also, on the other side of that, going through that loss and that grieving process and allowing myself to do it has brought me so many beautiful things. I mean, the relationship that I have with you, for example, Heather, as a best friend, like I've met Heather once in person, outside of that, it's been all online,
which we have
parties.
On an episode. We do have it on an episode, first meeting. So
yes, we do. We should have taken a video of the actual first like plane pickup. That would have been funny. But my experience now is the relationships that I have in my life right now, the people who I would call my best friend, my best friends, though there would be fewer of them and they're different than they were, 3 years ago or even 2 years ago. The relationships that I have they are rich with love and compassion and joy and learning and all of these really amazing things that I was always looking for and maybe perhaps was lacking in some of those other relationships. And it really solidified that some people are in your life for a time, a reason, a time, or a lifetime. I don't know. Sometimes they're here for a little bit of time. Sometimes they're here forever. There's a great quote on it. I can't remember what it is. But I'm thankful that I went through that process and I got to learn about myself and choose some friends that would support me on the next level of ascension that I'm going through now. So,
yeah, I think that,
yes, thank you for finishing that quote.
Yeah, you're welcome. I went ahead and just threw it in the chat there. A reason, a season, or the rest of your life. The thing is that, sometimes it can be a lonely place when you're on the spiritual path. And, because you really are, coming into your own, divine being. You're kind of coming within and learning who you are and learning to love yourself. And in doing this type of work, you start to realize what is meaningful in your life and what isn't. One of the things that I know, Jody, that you went through, that I also went through, was the realization of what a real friendship looked like to me. I knew a lot of people, I mean, thousands of people that I would consider my friends at one point, until the pandemic came along and changed everything. Yeah. And I realized during that time that none of those people even looked in on me. No one checked up on me. No one even responded to my checking up on them. It was just very odd. And, in that time, I realized, wow, I really kind of am here alone. I have my husband and I have my family and I have my friend Jody. And that's what I have, and Jackie. And the thing is that, and Jackie. And the thing is that when I look at the relationships have fallen away, I'm okay with it, because the nourishing relationships that they're nourishing to my soul, like I just love the people in my life so much and so deeply. And the best part is it doesn't even feel like it's suffocating to them. I can love them as much and as deeply as I want. And they're like, yeah, give me all the love, right? Instead of being like, oh God, too close, category 5 cleaner, So I think, maybe, Kat, start looking at who your circle is, and maybe it's time for a change of the guard.
And I think this comes right back to standing in your sovereign divinity, because it is standing in that uncomfortable place of understanding yourself at a new level and accepting all of you, all parts of you, those that you perceive as good and those that you perceive as bad, and everything in between. That is where your power lies, is in all of that, and learning about yourself and being able to stand in that uncomfortable feeling and be okay with it, be happy with it, and not really care anymore. And it's so funny because we have this in our mind that eventually when we get to a certain age or a certain success level or a certain whatever, it will be more acceptable to society. Or, that's something that I hear all the time. And last night, and this just came out, my guides reminded me, last night I was having a conversation with my dad, and it was just like we were walking and talking. It wasn't like this deep conversation or whatever. And he was talking about somebody that's close to him, having some health troubles and stuff like that. And I said, and it had to do with the heart and whatever. And I said, did you tell him to do Qigong? Like, did you send him some videos for Qigong? My dad is obsessed with Qigong, which is really, really funny because he is a farmer and a redneck and a horseman. Like, he's very like, so I would have pictured him doing tapping and Qigong until he started doing it. But I think it's beautiful and amazing and wonderful. And he's learning all these things, and he is willing to stand for what feels good to him. No matter what other people think, he doesn't care. He doesn't give a shit if people think he's crazy or whatever, because it feels good to him. And he's seeing the results that he wants to see in his life. He feels better. So I said, did you tell him, to do Qigong, the guy that we were talking about? And he was like, he thinks I'm freaking a lunatic, like Looney Tunes. He thinks I'm totally crazy. Meh. That's exactly how he said it. And he walked away. He let it roll off his back because he doesn't care what that person thinks or what anybody else thinks. He is looking within and serving himself, what feels good to him. And he will recommend things, but he's not attached to them doing it. Great. If they do, awesome. If they don't, awesome. It doesn't matter. So that never really goes away. It's our response that truly changes.
Yeah. And I think that that's such a beautiful, example of how to stand in your sovereign divinity, right? Like he's taking a stand for a spiritual practice that makes him feel good. Yeah. And, and I think that that's so beautiful because he could care less about what the rest of the world thinks of his Qigong and tapping, shenanigans. Mm-hmm. He knows that it makes him feel good and it brings him nourishment. And and so he's going to continue to do it. And I think that's really great. And I think that we all can learn a lot from that. It's taking a stand for you, yourself, your oneness.
For love, for all the things that you say are important.
Right.
Mm-hmm. All right. Mm-hmm. We're running out of time here. So let's recap. Know where you are, right? Where you sit and why. Get to know yourself, have that curiosity, something we didn't really talk about, but compassion. Just
Yeah.
compassion.
Mm-hmm. And it's compassion for, others, but it's also compassion for you. Have
Yeah.
compassion for yourself, what you're going through. You
Yeah.
know, I have not met a single spiritual person that has not gone through some experience of the tower where, shit in their life has kind of fallen apart, and for some people, you have to hit rock bottom in order to realize what's important, you
Yeah.
know, and what you truly are committed to.
100%. Other things we had on our list, what do you want to be right about? Check yourself. We also had check your intention. Your intention and your actions, and are they in alignment? That's a huge one.
Definitely. That's a huge one. Sometimes I see in the like the business coaching environment, sometimes business coaches will be pushing the numbers. What are your numbers saying? And I had a business coach at one point, and he was very good about, your actions and your intention being in alignment. And whenever they weren't, it reflected in my numbers. And he would say to me, I feel like there's mischief going on, Heather. And I'm like, mischief? Me? No way, And would say, are your words and your commitments consistent? And I'm feeling like they're probably not. Like why you're creating and why you're building and why you're doing the things that you're doing. Why are you doing that? What is your intention about doing it? And are your actions consistent with your intention? And it just comes down to integrity, right? Because that's what that is. It's about being in integrity in your life, and you can be in integrity by having your words, your intention, and your action being consistent.
100%. That could be all a topic on its own, because I have a lot of feelings
Totally.
around that.
We'll put it on the list.
Yeah, 100%. I just want to put a quick reminder in there that you're not perfect or a robot or a tree. So, you're going to mess this up. We all mess it up over and over and over again until it feels better, until we start choosing what feels better. So if you've messed up recently, maybe perhaps this moment, I don't know, give yourself some compassion and then start choosing something different. Another thing that we talked about, we do not have enough time to cover it in its full entirety, but some other things that I had written down is, at this time, are you continuing to say to yourself, there's nothing I can do because it's just me? Or there's nothing I can do because the global agenda is way too big and I'm just little me. Or it's all in politics and our democracy has been corrupted. Okay. Watch your words, because there is always something that you can do. And it starts with where you're at. Voting with your wallet, voting with your time, voting with your emotions, meaning paying attention to the things that you're giving those things to. Are you saying that, there's a corruption within food right now, and you're still buying, prepackaged Hungry Man meals, or maybe it's not even that bad. Maybe you're still buying from a big box store and you want to get out of that and you want to be more sustainable. So small actions, what can you start doing? Is there, some contacts that you can start making? Is there local butcher shops? We're just talking about in terms of food, but anything. You can apply this to anything. What's going to make you feel free, feel like you have options? Start setting yourself up to choose the things that you want to choose.
Yeah, I mean, voting with your dollars is a huge one. And that's one of the things that I love about where we live now is that it seems like everybody has a small business. And I dig it, man. I totally dig it. Like I want to buy all the shit from all the little businesses. Like if
Yes.
I could buy everything in the world from a small business owner, I absolutely would. Why? Because I believe in being able to create your own success, your own wealth, your own life, and if I can support in some way, I'm down for it. Sign me up. Take my money, you know. And the thing is that, this goes for everything, even your social media accounts. I can't tell you how many social media accounts I like rejected what they were posting just in the last few days. I went through and kind of did an overhaul in my social media, and I was being advertised, things that totally go against what I believe, totally go against for the change that I want to see in this world. And so I reported them. I closed them out. I said, don't show me this content anymore, because the algorithm is paying attention. If you think for 1 second that the cable producers don't know whether or not you're watching their news program, you are mistaken. They know who's watching and they're tracking it. And if all of a sudden the world says, I'm sorry, news place, I don't like your shit anymore, and everybody stops watching, they're going to have to change their tune. Because they're suddenly losing viewership and they are tracking the viewership. So having it on, running in the background, not really paying attention to it is feeding their algorithm. And
Yeah.
do you believe what you're hearing? Because if you don't, you're just going to get more of the same if you don't say something or do something or make the change.
Yeah.
And that is what standing in your sovereignty looks like. You take a stand for what you believe, for what you know in your heart to be true, for everything in your life that you love and care about. You stand for those things, and then you make those changes.
One change at a time.
One change at a
time. That's how we stand in our sovereign divinity. I hope you enjoyed our episode today. If you did, I want you to hit that like button. Make sure that you are subscribed. We are so close to getting our own link. So we just need, I don't bad at math. So I think it's 27. I think 27 more
27.
subscribers. So if you're not subscribed with all of your email addresses and you haven't talked to all of your friends, you should help us get our unique link. As always, we appreciate you being here every Tuesday with us, listening, contributing to the conversation, because this is also standing in our sovereign divinity, us as a collective coming together to talk about these things openly, to share, to reflect, to change, to grow, and to love one another through this time of ascension. So next week, we will be back with a guest. So stay tuned to our Instagram channel for more details on that. And we'll see you next Tuesday. Bye, guys.